3 of our class. Last week, we started off by talking about what is Active Directory. We created some servers and then we added those servers to our domain. 3 of our class. Last week, we to become the domain controller. After promoting it to become the domain controller, we then added one computer to it. That was where we stopped. So I'll just quickly go into my Azure and connect to mine. Let's see. Azure portal. So don't forget, anytime you are done working, make sure you stop your servers so that they don't just keep running. Make sure you always stop them so that they don't keep running, okay? All right, so you all can see my screen, right? I just want to be sure that you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. This is the job portal, right? Virtual machines. So mine is stopped. I'm going to start mine. Start. Yes. Okay. Are you guys still seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
What is showing now? What are you seeing? The virtual machines, right?
The virtual
Yep.
machines
Oh,
with the SQL. There's 2 of them.
okay, good. But this screen is not displaying the way I want it to. So let me change my resolution. Display settings. It's not showing how I want it to. Let me see what's recommended. Are you guys still seeing my screen? Is it better now?
It's the same.
It's the same.
You can see it.
Oh, so I didn't do anything. Okay, let me share again. Maybe. How about now? It's the same.
No. Oh, well, yeah, it's the same.
It's the same.
Oh my God. And this thing is the same. Good, it has started now. Okay, both machine has started. Let me refresh it. It's running. So I'm going to, since it's running, we already know about our Active Directory. So I'm going to start from your Active Directory, which is the SQL 80. Remember I said last week that when you join an organization, everybody in that organization would first of all be created in the Active Directory. So I'll start today to first of all go to this Active Directory and connect to it so that we can see, connect. Let's see. So I'm going to connect. Let me see, connect via RDP without any. Let me see something. Okay, validating that. It's a different ways to do it. Yep, everything is correct. Okay, download RDP file, keep. When it keeps it, you open it, open the file. Is it opening somewhere else that I'm not seeing? Not sure it's opening. Maybe it's opening, so I cannot find. Okay, it's opening. Sorry, multiple was opening on my other screen. So you click on connect. And you click on connect. You're going to go to more choices. You want to always use a different account. You connect to that one that you used. Oh, I forgot. I hope I remember the password. Okay, I remember the password. Then you say yes. Okay, there you go. This is the virtual machine. So our SQL 80 would open like this. Everybody that joins an organization, they will come to this SQL 80, this Active Directory, and users will be created. How do you create a user? You go to Tools, you come to Active Directory Users and Computers. You see that? When you come to Active Directory Users and Computers, it's going to open now in a minute. Where is it? Where is it opening? Okay, Tools, Tools. Sorry, my system is hanging. Okay, it opens somewhere. So it will open like this, Active Directory Users and Computers. If you go to computer, you'll see how many computers is connected to the domain. For now is one. You see users, when you go to users, you'll see me. This is the guy that built the system, so he's there. But let's assume that we have a new person that is coming to the company. Let's say Ronald. You right-click users, you say new, you come to user. All right, when you click on this, they'll create the guy name, they'll say Ronald. Okay, let's say, I don't want to put the last name, and they come and say, okay, how does it want to connect? So they can put it this way, say, okay, it's going to connect using megatech\1. And you say next. And you come here and say password never expires because of the purpose of this class. Let's use password 1, password 1. Say next, finish. Now a new user has joined the company. His name is Ronald. So now Ronald can go and connect to any computer that is in this domain. Why? Because all of them belongs to megatech.com, both the computers and the users. So now if he's a database administrator, there is what we call role-based access control. Let me open a notepad. They call it role-based access control, or RBAC. What does this mean? It means that the best practice is that never grant an individual user permission to your server. Instead, what to do is to ask or identify the role they belong to in Active Directory. But once you do that, give the RBAC group the permission to access your SQL server. So this is the standard. This is what we normally do. Anytime you hear the term RBAC, so for this particular case now, we will create an RBAC group. Call it SQL DBA. Then give some Windows permission to the group. Then from there we'll go to SQL Server in SQL01 and give the group permission to access SQL Server. That's the best practice. So this is what we're going to do. So if I ask you tomorrow, what is RBAC group? You should be able to tell me what RBAC group is. What to do. So I'm going to put this on our notes. Somebody can copy that and share on Slack. Where's the chat? So I'm going to put that on the chat. I've dropped it on the chat for us. Okay. Did anybody see it? So,
Yeah.
all right.
Yep.
Okay, good. You're still seeing my screen, right? Good. So that's what we're going to do. Now we have created a user in this group in the Active Directory. The next thing is to create a group. How do you create a group? You go back to users, right-click the group, users, come to new, you see group, and we say we're going to call the group what? SQLDBA. Very easy. SQLDBA. So that means everyone who is the database administrator, the moment they join Megatech, we are going to create them as user, then we put them into the group they belong to. We're going to create another group called HR group. Give me an example of departments in your office, top management. So that is what they do in the Active Directory. They create different groups, and as they hire people, call center agents, they put them into that group so that it is easier to manage, okay? So I'm going to say, okay. Now this is a group. Double click the group, and once you're done, you see members. Right now, we don't have any member of that group. So because we're doing RBAC, we're going to add just Ronald because for now, he's the DBA in the company. We type Ron, we say check names, it will see the guy, add him to the group. Then on this Windows, everything that's showing blue here is our Windows server, okay? But because he's a member of this domain means he can go to any computer and log in. So we are saying when you go to any computer and log in, what permission do we give you in our domain? You can now come down and say add. We want this guy to have admin privileges, check. You see, pick that first one, administrator. Add again. We want this guy to be able to run things on the domain. So I want him to be domain admin. Meanwhile, don't give everybody domain administrator. If you give somebody a domain administrator, the person can shut down your domain. So be careful how you give that. We want him to be able to log into domain computer. So you can select those two by holding down your shift button and you press down, or you take them one after the other. You hold shift, you press this one. Then you say, okay. You click on okay. Good. We want him to, how many permission is that? Let me see what again is the domain. We want him to be, he's already a domain user. Yep. He's already a domain user. Just add that for adding sake. Good. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The moment you say apply, say okay. That means Ronald is not just Ronald right now. Ronald has inherited everything that this group belongs to. Let's say another person is an HR department, so they'll go and create another group, call it human resource. Human resources, click on OK. Whoever is human resources, should the person have access to SQL Server? Right now, we don't have anybody in our HR department, but you can go and give them permission to and say, hey, anybody that is an HR, the person doesn't need as much permission as the person that works as a database administrator. So we only want that person to be able to log into domain computers. So the moment they do this and do this, apply. So whoever joins this company, the moment they put the person to the human resource group, if you log into any computer in our domain, you'll be able to access it. That's why they gave you guys member of what? Domain computers. You can also say, anyways, they are domain users, right? Just put domain, check names, give them domain users. You see that they don't have enough permission like I gave to the database administrator group. Right now, there's nobody in that group. So now we're going to create one user and add the person to the HR department. Who am I seeing? I'm seeing, okay, I see your last name. So we'll go to new and we'll say new user. I'll create another user, call the user Ola. Call this user Ola. So Ola has just been hired. We don't want her password to expire because it's a practical class. I'll put Ola's password 1. Remember, after we have built our VM, every other password you are using inside, make it password 1 for easy remembrance. So I say finish. Now we created another user. We say Ola, but Ola is a member, was hired to become an HR person. So they will now go to the Active Directory, double click this guy, go to members and add Ola there. Good. So Ola now automatically has these powers in the domain. Can log into any computer in our domain, and it's also a domain user. You say apply, and you say okay. Good, that's it. So now in Active Directory, we created two users, right? One is Ronald, one is Ola. Now let's see how they will go and log into our computer, SQL 01. You're done with Active Directory. You go back to your virtual machines. And now we're going to SQL 01, which is a computer that is inside our domain. Both of them, they've just given them their password and say, go and log into the computer. So Ronald will come first. So Ronald comes here. Now remember the way we built our server this time around, Azure, we're using the SQL server that Azure already gave us. So you go to connect. When you connect, Ronald is connecting to the computer for the first time. He downloads his RDP file. He says keep. All right. Okay, and it opens. Should open on the other screen. I'll drag it down here. Good. So it opens here. Ronald will say connect. Now, look at this. This is not Ronald. So he will now go to more choices and say different account. What was that username? It's Megatech/Ron. That's how he's going to log in. And what was his password? Password 1. This is him trying to log into SQL Server 01. Because this server has been joined to domain, he will be able to log in. Look at that. Look at Ronald is logging into sql.megatech.com. If he says yes, look at that. Look at the user that was created in Active Directory can now access it. That's in Ronald. It's Evans that built the server, but another user is logging in. I just built the server and created a user in Active Directory. So the moment he has the username and password, he can log into the server. So he's a database administrator. But then something happened. I should have logged in as an administrator and go and give the group permission in this database. But right now, Ronald logged in for the first time. Remember, this is SQL 01 he's logging into, and it's a Megatech computer. So now, if you want to, when you log into a computer for the first time at work, you want to now look for your management studio, which is where we all spend time in. Because we are just practicing on Azure, the first task as a database administrator is to install SQL Server, which I will teach you as we progress in the class. But because we are building our VMs on Azure, Azure already has SQL Server installed for you. All you just need to do is to come here, click on search. You either type SSMS, which is the management studio. You see it there? You will see this. Right click this thing, pin it to taskbar so that you can see there next time. Look at it here. Look at it. Double click this. That's how Ronald will come to say, okay, he wants to try and see if he'll be able to log into the server. I doubt it because I have not given his group permission to log into server. I only gave his group permission to log into the Windows that is blue. Even though I added Ronald as an administrator, let's see if he will be able to log into my server. While he is doing that, let me minimize it. Let me come now as the administrator. I want to quickly do some things. Okay, what do I want to do? Let me see. Let me see. Okay, SQL 8 is still on here. Yeah, okay, SQL 8 is still on. Remember what we are doing. Let me paint a picture for you so that you get a clear picture. What we are doing today is just as simple as this. We have our domain called SQL.com. Inside SQL, we have our SQL 80 and we have our SQL 01. Right? Where is this text? Where is this thing? Text. Okay, good. So now inside here, we have our SQL 80. And here we have our SQL 01. So inside our SQL AD, inside here, we have created 2 users today, right? We created Ron and we created Ron and we created another person called Ron, right? Then now inside our SQL 01, don't forget that SQL Server is hidden inside here. So this is SQL Server, which Ronald is trying to open now, SQL Server. Now, and we said best practice say, never give any individual access to your SQL Server. What do? You create a role-based access control inside here, which is a group, RBAC group, add the user into that group, then come to your SQL Server and give that RBAC group permission here so that whoever log in, if you put 20 people into this account, automatically 20 people have access to your server. Instead of you going to create 20 names inside server. All you just need to do is to create this group in Active Directory. We hire a new DBA called Yao. All you just need to do is to create Yao, add Yao to RBAC automatically. If he has permission into this server, he doesn't need to contact anybody. So right now, I just created Ronald. I have not gone in as an administrator to give the group permission to this server. But let's see if Ronald will be able to still access this server. He can access the Windows because remember, I gave him domain admin, I gave him the administrator to the Windows operating system, not SQL Server. Okay, so now he will now go in. Let me minimize the paint. Let me minimize the paint. I'm going into SQL 01. Good, look at it. Now look at, if you see here, his name is showing here, Ronald. Trust Server Certificate Connect. You see that? What did it tell you? Can you guys talk to me?
It's a login field for user.
Ronald.
Yeah, can't connect.
Because Ronald was created in Active Directory and added to a group. Who remembers that group that I added in? SQL DBA. But I did not come and give SQL DBA permission to SQL Server. So he can log into the Windows quite all right, which is the blue side. He can log into Windows quite all right, which is this blue side. Sorry. Let me minimize this thing. Let me minimize this. So he can log into the blue side, which is the Windows. But SQL Server is inside the Windows. So just because he can log into Windows, we still need to come and give him permission to log into this server. Are you following? Are you guys following?
Yes.
Yeah.
So now Ronald will call the database administrator, but because when I was installing the server, I use SQL authentication. I will now connect in my own, and that SQL authentication, if you guys remember when we were installing Azure, we said enable SQL Server login. So this is the login. I will now connect as the database administrator. I have full permission to this thing, connect. But I can connect. Why? Because I was the one that installed the SQL. I was the one that built the VM. Now, if you go here, this is where every database administrator, this is our goal to come into this place. This is where we spend our time. Say Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. This is where we spend 98% of our time is to come in here and manage our databases. So think about it as you have a phone. This is your operating system. The blue side is your operating system. Then this is your app. Now, all your application that you use to do whatever is connected to this Windows and talking to this database inside. So we are the ones managing this back end. If I come on to security and open it, you'll see that the group that he belongs to does not exist here. That's why Ronald could not attend. So I will now come and solve that problem by saying, right-clicking this login and say new. I'm talking to my domain controller now. I'm going to query my SQL AD from here. Because they belong to the same domain, SQL 01 can talk to SQL AD from here. And I want to create that group. Remember, best practices don't give individual access, give their RBAC group. When you click on that, let me do it again. I came to the server. The moment I log in, I open security. I go to logins, right click, say new logins. Then go to search. You see this one? Go to object types. I'm looking for groups, right? I don't want users. I want groups. What's the name of that group that I created in this domain, in Megatech domain? The group I have created is called SQL DBA. When you look at it, I've seen the group. When I create that group, I'm jumping ship. I'm teaching you, this is security now, but we'll get to security. But I'm just showing you how we give people access to access SQL Server, even if they are just joining the organization. So for the purpose of now, just go server role. I want to give them this permission. Don't worry, I'll get into these details later on. Now I'll tell Ronald, go and try again. Ronald will now come back to his server and now say connect. He's using Windows authentication because he's the one that logged into the Windows. Look at this. I did not give Ronald permission. I only gave his group, but now Ronald can connect to the server. He will fail because of this. I'm supposed to trust server certificate. Trust server certificate and tell him to connect. Let's see. Good. Look at that. Ronald will now tell me, oh, Evans, thank you. I can now connect to server to do my job. Did I give Ronald permission to the server? Yes, by giving what? His group. Look at now, you see his group. Where is his group? Look at it. So if anybody join my organization, all I need to do is to go to Megatech domain in Active Directory and say, please add that user into this group. Automatically, if a person logs into any Windows and goes to SQL Server, the person will get access. So my admin, I'm done. So now he's there. That's it. He can connect to SQL Server. So this is our goal, to be able to connect to SQL Server. Okay? Now, just because Azure installed the SQL Server for us, our first job as a database administrator is to install SQL Server, which I'll still teach you guys. Please remind me. Now, assuming you've installed SQL Server, we have logged into SQL Server, I'll give you guys a homework, or when we are building our servers on-prem, you must learn how to install SQL Server manually. Azure now installed this one for us. That's why we didn't have to go through the stress of installing it. Okay? But let me teach you guys some things before I take you guys to tour our environment where we do our work as database administrators. The thing that I want us to talk about is, I want us to talk about some things briefly, because your first task as a database administrator is to be able to install SQL Server. Why do we need to install SQL Server? Because that is what we use to do our job. Every company you join to, this is just basics. There are some prerequisites, some things you must know before installing SQL Server. You must be able to ask some of these questions for installing SQL Server. Is it too much? Do I continue?
No, it's not too much.
Okay. Prerequisites for installing SQL Server. SQL Server works on your Windows operating system. It is where we manage all the databases for all our companies, all our clients. So you want to find out what version of SQL Server are we installing. As a matter of fact, before we install SQL Server, there's pre-installation. Pre-installation are the things you do before you install, and there is post-installation. Oh, my English here is not. Look at me, I'm thinking I'm on Microsoft Word. It's not a query. Installation. Okay. Don't worry. I'm just speaking English. You will go now. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, so for your pre-installation, you want to ask what version? It's just like you're installing an app on a phone, right? To do a particular task. You want to find out what's the version, which users, okay? What is the memory? Just like you're buying a phone. What's the memory that we want to give to this server? What service accounts are we using? You want to find out what are the features of the SQL Server. You want to also find out, yeah, is there anything I'm leaving here? Yeah, what are the features of the SQL Server? You want to find out what service account is it going to run? Yes. You want to find out what authentication are we using? Okay. Okay. Good. The moment you find out that one, I mean, there are a couple of things you need to do before installing SQL Server. You can Google some of them, but this is what I can remember at the top of my head. So, when you're talking about the version of SQL Server, it is important to know the version. So what are the different versions of SQL Server? We have SQL Server ranging from version. So your assignment, please, somebody should write it down. Assignment is to tell me what are the versions of SQL Server that we have to submit tomorrow, before tomorrow's class. I need to find out what are the versions of SQL Server that we have. Just like your phone, iPhone 4. We have iPhone 10, we have iPhone 11. So it's the same thing with your SQL Server. We have so many different types of versions. Okay? So for the post-installation, the moment you're done installing your SQL Server, you want to update it, update to the latest cumulative update. Now, what this means is that before we get there, let me not jump ahead of myself. So we want to find out what are the versions of SQL Server, which users are supposed to have permission. In our own case, we say SQL DBA, right? Which users? Make sure you use RBAC groups. Okay? So in our own case, we created a group called SQL DBA. What is the memory? You want to find out what's the capacity, what workload am I going to assign to this server? Now, best practice says that give SQL Server 80% of your max memory and leave 20% for your other things on your operating system. Leave 20% for the operating system. Some companies differ. Some companies will tell you to do it 90. Like in my company, they say we should use 90. So we give SQL Server 90 because it's SQL Server, right? We don't want anything to go wrong. So we use 90%. What that means is that if you look at, okay, let me explain this memory. How do you find out? The moment you install your server, right? You want to go and check the system information to see where is that place. You can go scroll down. You want to come here and say system information. System information, that's it then. System. Yeah, that's to give you information about your PC. The moment you click on system information, it's going to give you all of this. You go and look for, you see this, mine is this one. So bet MySQL 01 in your own computer, you see it on your, so I have 3.4 gig. So I have to go and give SQL Server 80% of 3.4 gig. That will now become the max memory that I'll be assigning to SQL Server. How do you do that? That is still going to be this normally is in our post installation. Let me cut it. Cut. Control Z. This is cut. Okay, cut. This is normally in our post installation. Okay. So the moment you find out what are the users, what are the version, you want to find out what are the service accounts. Please, guys, every SQL server has two. Every SQL server has two. Oh, has two or more. Has at least two service accounts, depending on the features you have. Depending on the features. Depending on the features. Let me do word wrap. Sorry, guys. This thing is giving me issue. Tools, options, text editor, general, languages, general, word wrap, line numbers. Okay, good. So what are the features? Okay, every SQL server has at least two, depending on the features installed on that server. But the two basic services you must know, the two basic services are, number one, SQL services, SQL services. That is the one that runs the SQL Server engine, is the engine. Okay? And the second one is the SQL agent services. This one is in charge of running jobs on the SQL Server. I'll show you on the left. Running jobs on the SQL Server. Now, without those two services, your server cannot run. So that means anytime your server is not is not working, you want to go and ask yourself, is the SQL Server agent services running? Is the agent services, if the jobs are not running, is the agent services running? Take your mind, look at the left. You see this one? You see this thing here and this thing? Those are the two services. Green, green. They must be running for your service to run. And how do you see them? You see the service account using two places. Number one, configuration manager. Number two, you type services.msc, but most times we use the number one. How do you see these two services? Now, so when you're installing SQL Server, because Azure installed our SQL Server for us, they just created a default service account for the computer and they use it to run our services. And this account, this service account must be a Windows or domain account Anytime you hear the term Windows or domain account, it means where do you have to go and create the account? Who can tell me? Anytime you hear domain account, it means you must create that user where?
Windows.
Yes, in the Windows. When somebody joins the organization, where do they create the users? Where do they create the domain account? The popular name. What is that thing that makes, what's that server now where I just created two users?
Partial user.
The two users we created them where? Before we started. Ronald, do you know where we created it? Generator. Mark, where did we create our users?
SQL AD.
SQL AD in your Active Directory, in your domain controller. So that is where you also create your agent account. Okay? Right now, we do not have them created because Azure installed this server for us. But if you're installing server manually, you must have created your service account. Now, just because Azure created this for us, we have to create our own by ourselves and update it. And where do I say you can see your service account? Where are the two places you can go and see service account in SQL Server? The first place is where? I'm highlighting it on the board, on the screen. Where do you see your service account? Line 14. Line 15 is the first answer. Where you must learn to talk in the class. That's how.
Configuration manager.
Configuration manager.
And where the second place is
Service.
services.ms.
Services.
The next question you want to ask me is that where is your configuration manager? Now, if the server has been installed for you like this, to get your configuration manager, anything you don't know, just minimize that server, go to your search bar, type it, configuration. Before you even finish typing it, it will pop up. This is it. So this is already telling me that what version of SQL Server did we install? Based on this thing, what version did we install?
2017.
2017. Remember when you were choosing the free something? That was what you choose. Remember when you were installing your SQL, you said use free SQL Server and host it in the Windows this thing. So Azure used that to install this for you. So I will click on this, and when you click on this, you say yes. Now look at it, SQL services. Click on that. You see, I said you can have at least 2, depending on the features that is installed for you. Right now, from what I am seeing, Azure has installed integration services, but we are concerned for now, we are concerned with 2. Who can tell me the two services that we are concerned here? Who can tell me the first one? I showed you. What are the 2 services that we are concerned with?
Service configuration.
What are the 2
Agent services.
Line 10, 11, and we said we are concerned with what?
Agent service.
Agent services and SQL services.
Services. Okay. So we are concerned with this one and this one. You see that Azure used a default service account for us because they installed the server for us. They used a default account. But guess what? Hackers may know this. So for us to correct this one, the first thing we need to do now, I'll quickly go to my agent. Please, when you are watching this video, do exactly as I'm doing. At this point, I will go to my SQL AD, which is my Active Directory. That's where you create every account. And I want to create a new user. And I'll call that user my service account. There's always a place for service account. Look at it here. There's a folder for service account. You can come there, right-click it, say new user. And for this particular course, we'll call out, since we are learning SQL Server Management Studio, I'll call my service account SSMS. Please call yours SSMS, which stands for SQL Server Management Studio. And I want to say password never expires. The same thing I did. And I'll put password 1, password 1. The same way I created a user, finish. So now in my service account, I have just one service account, which is this guy. And since it's a service account, I want to give it different permission. Number 1, I'll go to member of. It's already a domain user. I want to give this guy a powerful permission because it's a service account. Service account should have power to run on the environment. I'll add another one. I want to give it domain admin because we'll be using it across domain, and I want it to be able to log into any domain computer. The same thing I did the other time. That's it. Okay. The moment I do that, I'll say apply. I'll say okay. Good. Now I've created a new service account for my SQL Server. You can put your description there, double click it if you want to put description. Where is that? Account. You can put a description. Where do they normally put description? Anyway, you guys know what it is. I don't want to waste my time there. Cancel. Okay, profile. Profile part, no. Account. Where's that description? Anyways, that I'm supposed to have put the description when I was creating it. Now you tell the DBA, I've created a service account. Please log into SQL 01 and go and update your service account. The person will come to the configuration manager, open it, come to the SQL Server account, double click it. When you double click it, you see account name. You want to say browse. When you browse, you go to object types. You want to go and pick a user, yes? Say, okay, what is that user we are looking for in this domain that we just created? It's called SSMS. I just created the guy in Active Directory. Do check names, password. Then what was the password I gave to it? Password 1. Password 1. And you say apply. When you do this, you are making sure that your environment is secured. Hackers will not be able to guess because you created this new account in your Active Directory. All right. So I'm waiting for it to apply. Good. It has finished applying. Look at it. It has changed. Click on OK. Then I want to also change the default agent account. You see, the agent has stopped because I just changed what is running with before. So double click on this agent. You go to browser. You want to do the same thing, user. You want to check which domain, megatech.com. You want to look for SSMS. Click on OK. And you want to put the password 1 and password 1. And you say what? Apply. It's going to change here. So look at it, it has changed. Click on OK. But it's not start yet. So you have to go and start it. And as best practice, it is always recommended that the startup mode should be automatic. So double click on there, go to service. When you go to service startup mode, you must always make it automatic. Guys, let me pause here. What I'm teaching you guys now, I never taught any class before. So you are starting on a good note. It may look like it's magic, but I am not doing anything extraordinary. I'm just going to Configuration Manager. I created this account in Active Directory, and I came here, double-click this one. I went to log on, I browsed, and I looked for the account in Active Directory. That's it. That's just all I did. Talking to the two computers are talking to themselves. SQL01 is talking to the domain controller. Now that it's automatic, I'm going to right-click it and start. So now, good. That means our SQL agent and SQL Server, they are now running under the service account, which is what we want to see. So now hackers cannot guess to come and log on to my server or shut it down. Because for them to be able to gain access to this environment, they must be a user in my Megatech domain. Everybody knows this because it's a generic name. They can guess to log in with this. So that is why we always make sure we don't enable browser service so that people cannot log in and be browsing on the server. It can cause hackers to steal your information. Okay? So now, the moment you finish that one, that's okay. You must know what the two SQL Server services that are running whenever you're installing SQL Server. The next thing you want to ask yourself is, what are the authentication? SQL Server uses two types of authentication. We will have one that is called SQL Server Authentication. And the other one is called Windows Authentication. Remember when we're building our server in Azure, it says SQL Server Settings. That is why I was able to log in here using my SQL account. But this is an example of a Windows account. Anytime you see an account that has a domain name / username, that account is what? A Windows account, meaning it was created in Active Directory. Okay, so this is a Windows account. And anytime you see an account that does not have a domain name, just have the username, that's a SQL login. That's the one that we all use to install our SQL Server and install our Azure. Then you put your password. But this one now, the domain name is what? Megatech/run. And his password was created in Active Directory. So the moment he logs into the Windows, he doesn't need to put his password to log into the server again. Look at, let me connect to Ronald again. Look at this. Because he has gained access to the Windows C, he's not asking him for password. It allows him to connect straight. But when you're using SQL authentication, connect, look at SQL authentication. This is Windows authentication. That's what Ronald is using. He's using his Windows account. But if you want to connect, you can also use your SQL Server account, which was the one that I used, Evans, and I put my password. That's what I just showed you guys, SQL authentication. Can you see SQL Server authentication? Username, password. But Windows authentication, you don't need password. Why? Because if you can log into the Windows as a member of the domain and you have access to the server, you can connect to the server. So guys, that's where I'm going to stop as far as SQL Server is concerned. Just a high-level introduction. I want you to watch the video. And part of your assignment, I said, find out what versions of SQL Server we have, right? As a matter of fact, some people would have even seen the answer. It's very easy. Google it for me. I don't care. Google the assignment. What are the versions of SQL Server? And assignment 2, what are the best practices of installing SQL Server? Assignment 1, it will help you understand it better. What are the versions of, please, I don't care if you Google it, research it, copy it and put on a Word document and submit it on Slack. Number 2, what are the best practices for installing SQL Server or installing SQL Server? Guys, that's the assignment. Easy. So, to wrap up today's class, let's assume that since Azure has installed SQL Server for us, we just want to do a tour of our SQL Server environment. So, every database administrator that you know, when they get to work, they log into this server called SQL Server. Now, you want to find out what is the version of your server. You run this simple query. Select add version. Oh, select add version. When you select it, how to run your query, you highlight it, you execute. It is showing me, so the version of SQL Server, you can copy it, paste it in. So this version of SQL Server is called SQL Server 2017. In case they ask you, how do you check the version of your SQL Server? Oh, I run a simple query called select add version. Meanwhile, our 30 days challenge, please don't forget to be doing it to learn how to write simple query, because this is where we're going to be writing all our query in this space here. Good. So that's how to check the version of your SQL Server. When you log into your SQL Server, it will be like this. You see this button here? Click it, plus everything will open. Now, every SQL Server that you create, if you want to see all the databases that is in a particular server, you go to the databases, you click on the plus sign. For now, we have system databases and database snapshots. Okay? Every SQL Server you install, every new SQL Server that is installed comes with system databases as default. As default. Okay. If you're thinking like me, I want to say, what are the system databases? You click on this plus here. Anything you don't know, just click on the plus. It will show me. So now, who can tell me what are the 4 system databases that we have in SQL Server? Those are interview questions. Somebody read it out for me. What are the system databases that we have?
Master,
Master,
model,
Model,
MSDB,
MSDB,
TempDB,
Who is that?
Sam.
Excellent. Guys, we talk for a living. Just like a pastor would say, guys, if you don't know how to talk, and if you don't want to talk, this may not be the program for you. With all humility, I really want you to do well. So please, it's just like memory verse. As you keep saying it, it sticks. Good. So we have 4 system databases. We have the master database. We have 2. The model database. I did not cram it. I'm just looking at the screen and copying it there. MSDB. And 4, TempDB. They come as a default. So system databases comes as a default. But user databases, you have to create them by yourself. We're not going to create database today. Just showing you. And guys, as a database administrator, to create a database, all you just need to do is to locate database, right click, look at new database. I said we're not going to create it, but my hand has already gone there. You just give your database a name, say Bank of America database. You click on OK. Is this course difficult? Everything we've been doing from the beginning of the course, you're not the one to build your environment. They build everything for you. Your assignment comes the moment you log into a server and connect to the SQL server, which is what we are doing today. So now on this server, we have how many system databases? We have 4 system databases and we have 1 user database. What is a user database? Line 48. A user database is the one that you created yourself or anybody else. So if I come back to my database and I open it, I can only see the user database, but inside my system database is hiding. Tomorrow, I'm going to explain what all of them are and why we need them. The reason I wanted everybody to have their environment is so that today you too can practice how to create simple database. Very easy. Look at it. Look at, very easy. Create another database. Call it DCU. I use DCU. If you don't want to create it, look at this, guys. Look at, follow my mouse. You see this scripted. I didn't write it in my head. I just say new query window. It's going to go and open it. This is why I tell you to do the challenge. What is the syntax to create a database? Guys, this long thing, I did not write it myself. This small thing that I just clicked, this is the statement. So you can just right click it. If you just say create database, DCU, only this line. That's all you need. Forget all this thing. It will take it by default. The simple syntax to create a database is called create, is English language. Create database, the name of my database, execute. Look at it. Easy as that. We now have 2 user databases. So you're managing the database for Bank of America. You're also managing the database for DC. You see why anybody that is not a database administrator should not have access to your server. Because if they have access to your server, they can come in and see all the database of all the banks you're managing. Don't forget that inside this database would have people's account number, their balance of their account, their transaction. Everything will be saved here. Your job is to log into server and manage this database so that as this server is connected to the application, users can access it. They are making sure that the environment is stable and up and running. Good. So any database that you create by yourself is called user database. When you install SQL Server afresh or any new SQL Server comes with the 4 system databases by default. The next thing I want to show you is security. Now, when you look at security, every server has 2 levels of security. We are touring the SSMS. Remember, I'm taking them one after the other. If you open security, under logins, it's going to show you everybody that have access to log into this server. That's where you see all of them. Click on the plus to see. Oh, so all the DBA team, they can log into this server, right? Okay. Oh, who is this guy? Oh, he probably built SQL 01. Okay, that's why he has permission. Okay. You see that SA is disabled. Don't worry, we'll talk about that one later. You see that? So you have, this is the service account that was running by default. I can disable this one now. I don't really need it to run. Anyway, let it be there. I can disable that login. Just double click it. Go to, where is it? It's somewhere here. Status. Disable. I want to disable that login. I don't want hackers to log in. So if I refresh, to be X. Good. So you see how I'm securing my environment now. So this is a SQL login. This is a Windows login. So all these people are the ones that have a permission. Just because somebody can still log into your server does not mean they can log into this database. Because if you open any of your user database, there's another security in there. Are you guys seeing it? So at your server level, if you minimize this, you have a security. They can log into the server, but you need to also give them permission under security. You open the users to give them permission to log into the database. So somebody can hack into you guys' system. That's one level of security. Hack into the server, another level of security. But if they are not given permission here as a new user, they will not be able to open any of our bank databases. I'm able to open it because I'm the administrator. I'm the one that created it. Okay, so that's that about security. So server objects, we will look at that later on. Replication, we'll look at that later on. We'll look at all of this one later on. The another thing I wanted to pay attention is we have looked at databases, right? Let me recap. When you open, so your job as a database administrator starts when you come in and connect to this server. Connect. This is where your job starts. But because we are the ones that are doing everything, we have to build the environment ourselves. So when you come into the databases, if it's a new database, you will not see the user database. You only see system databases, 4 of them. Good. This is security. It shows you who are the people that can access your phone and go into your phone and look at something. So you must secure your phone with a code. That's what we're doing here, securing our databases. Just because you can unlock my phone, I still have some documents that I gave password to inside my phone. You cannot still have access to them if you don't know the PIN. So that's the same thing we are doing here by securing our databases inside the security. Then we look at management. Management is something you want to pay attention to because it is where you manage the server. Let's open it and see what is inside. You can create policies for your server. You can create other things. You can create maintenance plan. But what I want you to see under management is the logs. What is a SQL Server log? A SQL Server log logs everything that is going on your server. How do you know what is inside? Click on this plus sign. You see the current. Right-click it and say View Server Log. Look at this. It is showing you everything, the information that has been going on your server. You can see it. This is when I was creating databases or when I was logging in. It's showing me everything. Look at, I created DCU. You see? It's showing me everything. So if you want to know what somebody did on your server, where do you go to? SQL Server Logs. If you want to find out all the information about your server, what people have been doing, where do you go to?
Server logs.
SQL Server Logs, and it's under management. So if you log into your server for the first time, they tell you, please go and check what is wrong with that server. You come in, you log in. I want to go to where? Management. I want to manage my server. I'll go to the log. Say, give me a minute. I'm just checking the logs to see what has been going on the server. Then you want to go to the most current one. Right-click it. Say, let me view the logs. Then, okay, I can see here that the database was just started up as at 12:40 a.m. Did anybody just create a database? Okay, what's going on? Okay, I'm seeing when the server was just installed or when it just started. I can see TermDB starting up at some point. You know, I can see all the information about my server here. So that's where you go. And when you click on anything, if you're looking for a specific error, when you click on it, please don't forget to bring your mouse down here and push this up so you can read the information, what it is doing. Look at, if I click this, it will change. If I click this, this is where you get more information about your errors or whatever is happening. So if I scroll up to the first one, starting up, this one is just telling you starting up. Look at this, it will show you all the error. It will show you every error. So put that in mind. You see that under management. That's what I wanted to know for now, under management. Okay. Then this is your agent services. This is where you do an agent. Like if you're buying a house, you need to get an agent, right? Who is an agent? An agent acts on the behalf of the principal. So in SQL Server, we have what we call SQL Server agent. What do we do to SQL Server agent? We send it on an errand to do things for us. Those things that we send them to do is referred to as jobs. What is your job? Who can tell me their routine when they wake up in the morning? Can you quickly just give me a routine of the thing you do when you wake up, when you're going? What's the thing you do? You get dressed. Say you need to be at the office 8 o'clock, right? I'll be at the office 8 o'clock. The first thing I do is that I want to check my email. I want to do this. So the same thing with us, when we come into our server, we can create jobs to do activities for us that we don't want to sit down and be doing. Like, for example, if I need to say, back up my databases for me every 1 a.m., by 1 a.m., I will be sleeping. But I can come to my server and do what we call automate it. We create an automation using the SQL Server agent. We create jobs. When you say create jobs, you're saying, if I create my job, for example, there is no job in here. If you want to create job, what do? You just go to the job, right click, you say new job. I want you to be able to do something for me. Say backup database, back up my databases for me. I'll say, okay, go there. What time do I want you to back up my databases? I say new. You set up your job, call it backup database for me. You see that? Use this to, okay, go to my master database. What do I want to do? I want to say backup databases. You put the name of your database, BOA. You see that? As easy as that. Pass it. Look at, come on. I want it to be backing up my database for me. Good. Look at that. I'll say schedule. How often do I want it to run? You set up the schedule when you want your job to run. So I can send an errand to say, back up my Bank of America database for me every day by 1 a.m. Where do I need to do that? My SQL Server agent. The last thing I would show you is in your SQL Server agent, when you open it, you see jobs. When you come here, you can also see error logs. So there are two places you can see error logs. The first place is under where? Management. SQL Server logs, error logs, SQL Server logs, error logs. Error log is where you see the same thing. Can you see that? Can you guys see that?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
So you can see that in your under your SQL Server agent. So if I come tomorrow and I tell you, where can I see error logs? Please feel free to Google the answer. Google it. You have to be smart. That's what I want. When I'm teaching you and I'm asking you a question, have a Google, have an AI open by the right. Put your question there. Can I see error in my SQL Server? Tell me error log. I'll say, okay, sure. That's how you learn. So if you're not ready to be smart, to go online, to be researching anything I'm teaching here, if you want to find it out in Google, just say, what is whatever, just add in SQL Server, because that's what you're learning. And you say, go. What is a database in SQL Server? How do you back up a database in SQL? Anything, just set, you will see it. Learning is so easy. Okay? So that is that about authoring our server. Well, if you see all of this one here, if I were you, just click on it, see what they are doing. Okay. You learn all of these things, how to use all of these things. You can save your query. But the most important one is the ones I have shown you today. Your databases, your security, your error logs, and your SQL Server agent. Guys, most of the times, those are the only things we use at work to do our basic job in your SQL Server. So again, we are learning SQL Server database. Administration. Administration. And where do we, when we log into our server, what is this server called? 1 minute, guys. What is it called? This tool, the tool we use to connect to our server is called what? The tool we use to connect to SQL Server is called what? SSMS, which is SQL Server Management Studio. I understand if this is fresh for everybody. Please, I don't expect you to know everything in one day, but trust me, tomorrow when I come, I'm not going to add another thing on top of this. The only reason I wanted you guys to build your servers is such that you can have an opportunity to tour it the way I'm doing, to do a tour of your environment, of where you're working. When I come tomorrow, we're still going to build up on this. So I will do this. I'll share this document with you guys to check the version of your SQL Server. Use the query below. So I'm going to ask you questions tomorrow with this script, with everything I'm going to send to you guys. So this is what I'm going to ask you. All of this, I'll give you this note, and then I'll ask you questions from it. As easy as that. Okay, so I'm going to copy this guy now. I'll put it on a notepad, and I'll share it with you guys on Slack. So today we're just touring our SQL Server, checking it out. Install SQL Server. No, touring of SQL. Let me touring of SQL Server. Okay, I'm going to put a document for it. One second, guys. I'm just creating a folder to save it. Document, new folder. I'll call it class notes. Okay, good. So I'm going to just put it in a folder and send it to you guys. See, awesome. Okay, so this is where we're going to stop the class for today. Please try to do your homework, connect. What's the assignment I gave today? Who can remind me? 2 assignments. Okay, they are here.
You wanted us to, you asked what the versions of SQL Server was and what are the best practices for installing that server.
Excellent. Please submit your assignment on Slack as easy as that. When we come back tomorrow, you'll see that it's so easy as that. Everybody that is managing database, this is where we are managing it. This is called the SQL Server Management Studio. That's why they call us database managers. We manage our databases using the SQL Server Management Studio. So I'm going to stop the class here until we come back tomorrow. Have a wonderful night, everybody. I'm going to put this note on the I'll put the note on the Slack channel.